go to Peter Doocy, who's fresh out of the news conference. Peter, we mentioned that he took questions from 10 people. You and Fox News, not among them.
That's right, and I mentioned last night on Special Report that I had a binder full of questions. I think some people were kidding. I was not kidding. We had a lot, and most of this stuff did not get to. For example, nobody ever asked him about this big plan that he's got, this big idea to completely transform the economy, to make it all green. That was something that we were hoping to get on the board with. And there really were not a lot of questions about COVID, particularly the investigation into the origins of it. That is obviously something that he spends a lot of time focusing on ways to move away from, but there is very little looking back at the origins of COVID. So we did not get on the board with that. Nobody else asked about that. And to Chris's observation, I can add to it that in the room there were some aides, including Kate Bedingfield, the communications director, and Jen Psaki, the press secretary. They were monitoring what he was saying. Looked like they were checking their phones to get the instant reaction. But while he was up there, he was pretty much on his own. Usually at the last few of these, and the last one that I can think of like this would have been in Wilmington, they had an aide off to the side with the list of reporters to call on. Today it was Biden with the list. And once they got through about an hour and 20 minutes, he was done. I'm not sure if that was the end of the list. If we were on it, he did not make it down that far. Back to you.
Peter, I said bingo because there was talk about not enough jobs for the American people, still struggling economic environment in this country, but not a lot of detail, not a lot of specific answers as to how he plans to revive the economy as we climb out of this pandemic. He tried to defend his $3 trillion infrastructure plan, as we just saw. But on unity, Peter, what did you hear from the president, specifically when he took a question on working with Republicans? He said Republicans will have to determine if they'll work with him. He was also asked about his lack of speaking with the head of the Republican Party in the Senate.
And his answer basically was, I can do whatever I want without the Republicans, but if they want to figure out an issue where they want to come and work with me, then we can do that. It's notable, though, for the entire length of the transition and the campaign before that, Biden was talking about how post-Trump, D.C. was going to be a less polarized place because he was a uniter. He thought that a lot of Republicans were going to have an epiphany as soon as Trump was gone and want to reach across the aisle to work on progressive priorities. Not only has that not happened, but now we know that he has had very little, if any, outreach to Mitch McConnell. And so it's not clear where Biden thinks that is going to start, this convincing Republicans that they should be working with the other side. But it did not sound like he was going to run back into his private office and call his old colleague, Mitch McConnell, today.
Peter, we saw you there in that room. We know you were prepared for it. Thanks for showing us your binder. And sorry you didn't get a question.
Maybe next time.
Next time.